Yeah, I was just actually talking to one of the guys. He's a little more on the techie side of things. Benefit of being in the town that I'm in, everybody has their
Mm,
niche specialties,
mm,
within the military and whatnot. And so I get to pick these guys' brains on like all these different things. And I told him I was like, hey, I figured this part of the podcast out where it's you and me talking on opposite ends. But apparently, when we were together, the mics didn't pick up everything. So I was like, how do we do that part? And so he was showing me some shit in between.
cool,
It's
cool.
kind of cool. What are you guys getting hit with this storm?
Well, it's supposed to start Saturday. Who knows? Weather Channel's not exactly on, but I do think we're gonna get dumped on. Most areas like Saturday, they're calling for like 3 to 5 inches, and then somewhere
Okay.
around 6 to 7 on Saturday or Sunday. But in my area, right where I'm at, I'm talking about Cincinnati, and where I'm at, they're talking by the end of the weekend, like probably right, they're saying like 12 to 13 inches.
Oh, you're fucked,
So
dude. You're not getting out of your driveway.
yeah, that's just gonna be me working on it all day Sunday.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
be on that thing for hours.
You got a dope spot, but you're not getting out of there
Mm.
when you get a big snowstorm without some work.
Yeah, yeah.
Benefits
My
of
four wheeler.
living in a residential neighborhood is you don't have to deal with that
Yeah,
too
right.
much. Yeah, we're supposed to get somewhere between 1 to 78 inches, and it's
Yeah,
going to happen sometime today between Saturday and 1 hour increments. I don't know what's going on. Let me unplug
between
this.
today and 2028.
Yeah, right. It's pretty wild, like the different forecasts that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually supposed to work a level one down in Atlanta at that gym we went to,
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit 1124 in Metairie,
Yeah.
where we did me, Leanne did it was the Murph challenge for that gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Came
Yep.
down and ran it and shot some content. That's a beautiful gym.
It is right. Real
Yeah,
nice
it's
gym.
super nice. I guess the guy that owns it owns a construction company as well,
Makes sense.
and yeah, so
This is a pretty building. Nice building. I mean, they keep it clean. The gym itself is nice, right? But like, it's
yeah,
a really cool building.
it's awesome. Speaking of gyms,
Mm.
uh, CrossFit 606. Just looked them up right before the podcast. I was going through some emails. They subscribed to the programming as a gym, so I thought that was pretty cool. A little shout out to
Cool.
them if
Nice.
they happen to be listening. Somewhere in Kentucky. Not sure if you're familiar with it.
Cool. Not offhand, but what I would say, if they're in Kentucky, they should get a hold of me sometime and shoot up to my gym for some fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're close by. If you're close by and you're on the programming at some point, uh, yeah, come up on a Saturday or something and bring your coaches and let's have some fun.
It is Whitley County. I don't expect you to know where that is. I lived in Kentucky and have no idea where that is. It's probably one of those small. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Looks cool though.
Cool.
Yeah, it's one of the things I do is when I see a gym that subscribes, I will go and look them up real quick because we don't really have any other connection venue. Wodify handles all that stuff, and I'll just look them up, reach out to them, see if they need anything. Typically, um, it's funny after the years we've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Every gym that's been on our programming that has gone out of business, when I look them up, they have like 3 to 5 Google reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, when they go out of business and they need to cancel their programming subscription,
Mm-hmm.
they still have 3 to 5 Google reviews.
Hmm.
And I'm like, look, the whole, yeah, the whole point of like what we're doing here
Mm-hmm.
for you guys is one, we're delivering a world class product, the best training platform. There is none other that's produced the results that
Mm-hmm.
we've produced with this thing. But we're also delivering coaches notes, a detailed lesson plan, how to deliver it in a traditional CrossFit gym style setting. If you don't have all the specialty equipment, so we do a lot of back end stuff so that the owners, one, can get their people really fit so they can keep coming back. But we all know that there's like an attrition with gyms,
Mm-hmm.
right? A good churn rate somewhere around 5% of your total membership. So if you're not taking that time that we just freed up, because you and I spend a ridiculous amount of time on programming,
Mm-hmm.
right? It
Yeah.
eats up the majority of your time. It eats up
Mm-hmm.
the majority of my time when I'm not training clients for these notes and everything. And it would be really silly for somebody to pay for this and then not use that opportunity, the 6 to 8 hours a week that they were probably spending on programming, uh, to not take that time and pour that back into their business. And every
Hmm.
single time I've seen one go out of business, that's been the case. So kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like anything else. That time can be used to bring new members in. It can be used to become, like we always talk about, like a student in your sport, right? Like we provide coaches notes, and a good coach should be able to follow this just fine. Shouldn't be a problem. Should be an easy follow because there's really good notes in there. But at the same time, you have to be a student in your sport. You have to study things. It took me. I had to learn and build an eye for movement. And that's just something that's like, hey, look, if this frees up time for you, you can watch videos of people lifting, watch great lifters, try to figure out what breakdowns are, where inefficiencies are, take the notes that we say and the things that we talk about, and see if you can start to pick apart people. Find out what's wrong with them, and then that helps you bring an eye towards your clients. But also, it's like, look, if you want your clients to be excited about what they're doing in training, you have to be excited about it too. And so promote what you're doing, the type of coaching and training, like give them the background, let them know what it is. I think a lot of people think that they take it, they use it, and they have to, maybe sometimes some people pretend it's like something they came up with. And not that I care, I don't, but what I will tell you though is, if you don't, as a coach, have the name or the background, or like the proof has to be in the pudding, if you don't have the success yet to show, because maybe you're a new gym, then it would be actually probably beneficial to say where it comes from. Talk about the things like that's been accomplished at my gym, Westside Barbell. Look at the things that have accomplished at your gym, Justin. And when you also look at the top athletes in the world are doing a conjugate training system. You have athletes like Jeff Adler and stuff doing it. Justin Medeiros. I mean, you have a lot of great CrossFit competitors. Like, all the top people are doing it. Whether they're doing it correctly or not, that's a whole other story. But they're doing some form of it. I mean, every one of them are doing it, right? And so at the same time, uh, it shouldn't be too hard to get your clients to be excited about something that everybody who's placing the CrossFit Games is doing the system in some way or another. I'm not saying all, like, we have clients like Jeff Adler works with us and stuff, but we have a lot of there's a lot of top competitors using it that we're not even setting it up for, and I can't speak on how well it's being set up for them. It could be set up really really well, and it might not be. I've seen a lot of competitors do it in a way, from seeing the things I posted, that I see there's a lot of room for improvement, but they are using it and still having success, right? Even if it's not perfected yet, on their end. Shouldn't be too hard to get people excited about that. Use that free time to build, either try to get more clients in, or to build atmosphere. We talk about after knowledge, like, we're given knowledge base, and knowledge can help, and for sure knowledge can help with atmosphere, but it's not all of the atmosphere, right? So if you have coaches who are excited about what they do, they are really good for the community, then yeah, we can take care of the rest, with having really good success and constant improvement and constant variation, to keep people interested in it and to keep the results coming so that they want to stay, right? People are getting the results they want, they're way more likely to stay. I mean, anybody who owns a CrossFit gym out there, there's a lot of clients that have signed up to your gym that did not intend to train that intense, that didn't know what they were necessarily getting into, and someone would get, like, maybe they paid for a 3-month membership, and they're like, I'm gonna gut this out for 3 months, and then I'm out of here, right? And then I'll pay to go somewhere else because this is just a little more than I intended to pick up on. But then after that 3 months, they have results they've never had before, because obviously results lie on the edge of intensity, right? So now they're kind of bought in, and as long as there's enough variety, enough to for one, to keep them interested. Two, and the other thing is, I always use the example of, like, Fran. Like, the first time I heard someone talk about Fran, and I'm thinking, that's all you did for a class. Like,
Right.
what a waste of money. And then I did Fran, and I was like, wow, man, that is shocking how hard that hit. If you put the intensity to it, right? So
10 minutes, and then 10 minutes later, it hits you in the face, and you start throwing up for no reason.
yeah, so it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I get that, cool. Well, the more variety means the more Frans that come their way, right? The more things that smack them in the face, that they're halfway through the workout before they realize, whoa, this is hard. But
Dude,
they're almost there. They're halfway through.
yeah, today's workout, the one you programmed. Let me pull it up real quick. So I've had some people bitching about this one. That was a good one. Is let me see here. So they had to go. I'm on the wrong damn day. Let me see. What's today? Thursday.
Mm.
Oh, it said so it was 5 rounds. Probably don't. People bring up workouts to me, and I'm like, we worked on that like 2, 3 weeks ago. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm 3 weeks in the future right now,
Yeah,
trying to
right.
keep up so I can have these uploads done. But this one was 5 rounds. Every 4 minutes, you complete one round of 20 wall balls, 15 calorie row, and 10 shuttle sprints, and your score is your slowest round.
Hmm.
Shuttle sprint down and back, so 25 feet down, 25 feet back, old school gym style. But
Hmm.
people were pissed when they got to that point. And it's 5 rounds, and I look at one of our coaches was doing it in between classes, and she looks at me after the first round, and she goes, "Oh, this is bullshit." And she came dragging into the coffee shop, and she was like, "That was way harder than that should have been." And everybody kept saying the same thing. So it's like one of those
Uh,
things. It's like because we look at the full picture,
hmm.
right? And we're constantly adjusting things and making it to where it's difficult. It's not just this workout, right?
Hmm.
This workout, it was designed in a way where they could push it really hard. You get a little bit of rest in between. Oh, and then you take 4 minutes. You wait till the next 4 minutes and then you go again, right? So they
Hmm.
get like 30, 60 seconds, some even 90 seconds, and it
Hmm.
just makes it to where they want to push that much harder. But they also don't realize everything else that we fatigued earlier in the week
Hmm.
is adding up because our programming isn't random, right? We're
Hmm.
breaking down body parts, we're breaking down skills, we're looking at the roadmap to where we want them at a certain point of the year. And to your point, is like when people are getting more knowledge, they're able to deliver this thing better. And I will be fully transparent with anybody here. I have never spent a single dollar on marketing because my members walk around town and they look fucking jacked. And people are like, hey, where do you go?
Hmm.
And I get calls all the time. I probably get more calls than I answer. I'll be honest. I'm
Hmm.
not the greatest gym owner out there, um, because I don't really
Hmm.
focus on those things as much as I maybe probably should. Uh,
Hmm.
but I get calls all the time. They're like, "Hey, I just ran into one of your members at the gas station. They look super jacked. I asked where they were going, and can I come in and try it out?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you can."
Hmm. Yeah.
Or people, their friends over time will come in with them, and but you know what ends up happening to that point is a lot of the gyms that I talk to have 50 to 80 members when they hop on the program, and they have like 10 classes spread out through the day. Look, there's small group training, there's large group training, large group model, and then there's personal training. If
Hmm.
your large group training looks like personal training, you probably need to cut some of those classes, right?
Hmm.
Because that environment is completely different when there's five
Hmm.
people in the class and then when there's 15 and 20.
Yeah.
And there's days because we're in a military town where there's some weird shit going on. Everybody's got to be at work, and that 5:30 a.m. class is kind of small. And
Hmm.
I would say small for my 5:30 a.m. class is like under 10.
Hmm.
But on a normal 5:30 a.m., you can typically see 15 to 25 people in that class.
Hmm.
The energy at 5:30 in the morning doesn't even make sense.
Hmm.
We're doing a max effort lift on a Monday. It's 5:30 in the morning on a Monday. Who the fuck is waking up that early?
Yeah.
25 of these lunatics, and we got this big old like uh, PR bell at the end, and people are ringing it like fucking crazy, and then the energy's going nuts. They're backslapping, having a great time, and then they go to work.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? The next
Yeah.
class rolls in, and it's the same energy. And we got our mom's class in the middle of the day, and the mom's classes are doing the same thing. They're getting hype. We got grandmas slamming bars, loving life. It's just a really good time.
Hmm.
But it's one of
Yeah, I
those
saw it last
things.
time I came out.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and it's that is the thing. It is atmosphere. Atmosphere gives you motivation to go on days you don't feel like going. It gives you motivation to push a little bit harder. The funny thing is, the problem is if you have a low level coach who has a hard time teaching more than 4 or 5 people at once. That's the hard part. But that coach needs to be coached up, right? And then some of your clients, if they hear, and this is how you need to explain things to people too. You have a class and say, hey, we're cutting some class hours. So classes will go from 4 to 5 people in them, and we're probably gonna have 10 to 12 people in these classes. And people are like, oh, great, like I'm getting half the, you
I'm
know,
not going to get my favorite bar or my favorite
yeah,
rower.
I'm gonna get the half the coaching that I was getting before, right? And that's not the case. If your coach is coached up, that's not the case at all. What you will find is the programming is already set. your coach in front of you has already said that that's who your coach is. So whatever kind of work they do, what they're capable of, that's already there. But you get the additional benefit of the energy, like you said, and the atmosphere, and the energy and atmosphere pushes. And we keep saying, it's intensity that gives you a result, off of a good program, right? So, athletes need to start, or clients, athletes need to be a little more aware of atmosphere is excellent. So if you're somebody who's like, Justin's saying, hey, maybe cut some classes out, get more people and get a better atmosphere going. And if you're looking to do that, when you explain to your clients like, hey, these classes are going to be cut, this is for you guys. We want to build the atmosphere and energy that you guys deserve and you're going to really want to experience. Once you experience this, you're not going to want to go back. Instead of just saying, hey, we're going to cut some classes. We don't have a whole lot of people coming in at the time, so it doesn't make sense to have these classes.
You may lose a couple people here and there who are just... Most people aren't leaving your gym, anyone's gym, because they were tired of functional movements that were constantly varied, performed at a high intensity. They're probably not leaving the gym because their results are too fucking good or anything like that. The reality is that they were leaving the gym, they were leaving before you made that cut anyways. I've had very few people leave my gym that went to another gym in town. I can think of a handful off the top of my head. But ends up happening here is they're military, so they move every 2 to 3 years, and then we get a full cycle of new people in. And that seems to be the case more than anything. Very few people are like, yeah, I just hated it there. It wasn't a lot of fun. That's not what happens. And I'll say this too is, because our coaches are so good at what they do and we're constantly working with them, and they also use the same lesson plans that the other gyms do, they're able to have more fun, and they're able to pour in more to the more experienced athletes. And what ends up happening in those moments, they're not ignoring the new person by any means, but now they're a force multiplier, and that's a big thing in the special operations community, is being a force multiplier. So I don't look at me being a single point of failure on anything. I'm one person. If I have a class of 20, I want to make sure that if Shane's in my class and he's an experienced athlete and he moves well, I want to give him as much knowledge as he can, so that when my back's turned to Sally, he's over there working with her in between his sets. You know what I mean? And what ended up happening after a couple of years of doing this is my average gym member is more knowledgeable than most coaches in that are in the space, and they can identify faults and they can recommend fixes. Very few times do I walk past and hear a member who's been here a while say something stupid that's not going to work.
Yeah.
They're constantly coaching each other. And I think some coaches could also look at that and be kind of like, I don't know, intimidated by it. Like, oh, they're not going to need me, or maybe they know more than me. And yeah, that is a possibility. I don't want any of my athletes to need me. All my athletes, for the most part, are military, and they're going to leave. I want them to be able to execute this when they leave, or if they're downrange, they can execute training safely without me, and they can still perform at a high level and get the mission accomplished. I don't want anybody to have to. I don't want to have to hold anyone's hand through training.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I know you've heard me.
Honestly, that's what I mean. Like I went and I squatted with you guys, and it was Jonah, or Jonah, is that her name?
Yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah,
Jonah, and dude, she is picking my form apart. You know what I mean? She's like, hey, do this, right? And it wasn't. Sometimes when you hear members of gyms giving cues, it's all over the place. Everything she said was very specific, and it was very actionable. Hey, chest up, knees out. I need you to arch harder into it. And she was doing it, and I look around, there's another guy doing it, and there's another guy doing it, and they're doing it to each other. And not one fucking time did I hear anybody say, hey, great job. Yeah, you got the lift. The lift was expected to be made. It was, hey, how can I make the next one that you do even better than that one? And everybody was invested in everybody as much as they were invested in themselves. Because the reality is, everybody that goes there and goes here, they want something. They want results. And when you're operating as a team, you go a hell of a lot further than operating as an individual. You know what I mean?
100%. Justin's talking about is I've always said that, gym should be a learning facility. When you're coaching people, you should teach them. Some people have money for a period of time that they can get a trainer or they can be a part of class. And, I don't want someone to get out of shape or get out of condition or have injuries or problems because they can't afford to be at the gym anymore, or they move somewhere else and they don't have access to a coach at the same level. So I want them to learn as much as they can. And what ends up happening, like at Justin's gym and my gym, is what I'll tell people is like, look, when you start here, I don't want you coaching anybody, okay? And then over time, what I'd say is I listen, I'll, ask them, questions about like, hey, tell me what you saw in this person squat, and they'll tell me, or deadlift or bench or whatever movement is. And then once I know they know the movement really well, know exactly what to look for, I go, okay. If anybody needs help with deadlift, you're more than welcome to help them out with that. Not squat and bench. And then it's like okay, now you can teach squat and deadlift. Okay, now once they have the bench on, now you can teach bench. I will let them know when they're able to start helping others. And then what that ends up doing is it gets a buy-in, right? So now that client that I have, that athlete that I have, wants to come up to speed quick, because they always like to show like a coach, like, hey, look, they're being successful, they're doing things, they're listening, they're paying attention. And so the more that they can take on responsibility, they're only assisting your coaches, and it's the coaches that are saying what they can help with, what they can't help with. So the coach is overseeing that. So it's not like they're jumping them in the hierarchy or anything like that. What they're doing is giving additional eyes inside of a room. And what's sweet about that is you'll hear other members. I've had people when they joined my CrossFit gym, when they were new to the gym, go, man, the other members here are so nice, and they jumped in to help me with my technique, and man, that was great cueing. Even the members are giving me awesome help. So now they're like the atmosphere. It's the members. It's not just the person who's getting paid in front of you to coach you. It is the people who are not getting paid or taking their time and helping, and that they're coming across more knowledgeable than the other local coaches in the area. And that is when you have a game changer and a force multiplier like Justin's talking about. And then what's nice thing too is, when you get really good coaches, it's really hard to replace them. So what if you have a coach who leaves, they're moving, or they get out, they go into a different career or whatever it is? How do you replace them?
You have 150 of them waiting to
yeah
the person's spot because they know
correct
everything that individual knows because they didn't hold it back.
Yes.
That really goes back to what Lou did at Westside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Above all the accolades and everything, he was a wealth of knowledge and gave freely.
Mm-hmm.
And that bled into you, and that bled into
Mm-hmm.
me, and that bled into our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like every one of those members, like I said, they want to win. They want a PR. They get pissed when they don't PR. They're expecting to PR when it's PR day. Or,
and I love that.
Max effort day. They fucking love it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you and me are close to the same weight, I want you to come up in weight, because now it's going to challenge me to go even harder on the next things. I'm going to have to push it because I love you, bro. You're my best friend. I want to fucking beat you. I want to beat everybody that I can on everything that I can. And that's the culture. They'll high five each other. They'll clap. It's not quite as hardcore as the shit that you've experienced, where people are punching people for beating each other. You know what I mean? But people are genuinely excited because now their training partner is going to elevate them and take them to another place.
We have the culture like at Westside or at my gym, because I learned from what Lou did, and and once you experience it, you don't want to be a part of something different than that. But to give you an idea, there was one time there was a lifter who was he hadn't been with Westside for a real long time, been there for a little while, and he was a good lifter, real good lifter. And he was going head to head with a guy at a meet, and he was on par for a PR total. But this guy came out, and by the time they got done with squat and bench, they were roughly tied, and the other guy had a much better deadlift. And he, wants to pull out of the meet, and Lou goes, why do you want to pull out of the meet? He goes, and he knew Lou would have a problem, so I got a twinge in like a hamstring, something like that, right? And Lou looked at him and he goes, well, he's like, you know how hard we train. You train with the best system and the best partners, out there in the world. He goes, this guy doesn't have the partners or the system. He goes, so you can imagine what he put into it to be able to beat you. He's like, if you don't go out and pull a PR deadlift, He goes, "You're out of the gym. You're not coming back." He goes, "Give him the respect of beating you at your best."
Fuck yeah, I love
And
that.
that was us getting beat. Like it didn't happen much. Like,
You go out
but
and get beat, but you're gonna give it hell. You're not
yes, and it's a respect thing. Give
I
your
remember
opponent
Atlas, we talked
respect.
about that kind of shit too, where he
Mm-hmm.
would expect to fight the bully after school or whatever, and knew he was gonna get his ass kicked, and then still fought the guy anyways, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the type of individual he was. He didn't back down.
Yeah, and it's like same thing. You look at military, right? You say someone's your best friend or a teammate or whatever, the best thing you can do is push so hard in everything that you do that it forces them to push harder. And they might get irritated at first. They might be like, I was doing good enough. I was doing plenty. And this guy is making me look bad. No, no, no. We're not making you look bad. I am forcing your hand. Because if every one of us force each other's hands, we're going to become something that nobody can recognize, and we're going to be, hell to deal with. And that is what you want. And you want the same thing in a gym. And that doesn't go just for competitors. Hey, you know what? Life is it's game on, right? Life isn't easy. So people who come to your normal classes don't want to compete in CrossFit. It's still the mentality, it is still the discipline, it's still the drive that you gain that you can start to bleed into other areas of life. And when you have something hard happen in life, when you're sitting there going, man, I've just spent the last 3 years of this gym, and every time something got hard and I couldn't do something, I found a way to get through it. The rest of life is no different. It hardens you, man. It makes you more capable. And then, like you said, in the gym, when people are going back and forth, and, one week you beat, one of your friends, and the next week they beat you, and, you're trying to pull ahead and they're trying to pull ahead. Well, next thing you know, you guys put more on that lift in the last year than you had in the previous 3 years. And I would rather have that than not have competition and be so far ahead of everybody, but I don't go as far. It's not what I want. So, that's the kind of interesting thing. Like,
It's a mentality shift
we,
too, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and this is an interesting thing. You've been a high performer your whole
Mm-hmm.
life. You've always chased excellence. I've been a high performer. It's natural that high performers would gravitate towards each other to try
Mm-hmm.
to lift things up and to elevate those things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about you, but like in the instant, I like to use this analogy. If I go to a restaurant, fucking phenomenal steak restaurant, best steak restaurant in town. The service was amazing. The drinks were
Mm-hmm.
great. The atmosphere was amazing. I don't even look at the bill. I just sign the check. I go to IHOP or some shit like that. The people are rude. The food came out cold. Everything sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pissed. I'll never go back. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm scrutinizing the bill, every little deal of it. And the reality is like when you demand the best, you also
Mm-hmm.
accept the best, and nothing else is acceptable. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
think high performers gravitate to other high performers. And I've learned so much shit from you. I don't know if we've talked about this previously on here, um, but it was even like things outside of training, like that nose spray routine that you got from the allergist, like one of the number one
Mm-hmm.
allergists in the world. And he's training at your gym, he's training with you. Why? Because he's the best, so he wants to go to the best. And as a byproduct of that, you're learning from the best individuals, they're learning from the best person
Mm-hmm.
in that space, and everybody is elevating everybody. You're almost like you're almost like the Joe Rogan before there was podcasts. You know what I mean? Like you get to be
Mm-hmm.
around really interesting individuals that are at the top of their
Mm-hmm.
game, and they're only coming to you because you're at the top of your game, and
Mm-hmm.
people want to work with that type of individual. So when
Mm-hmm.
people, are coming in off the streets and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do this or I can't do that," or they're leaving because being around a bunch of high performing individuals is uncomfortable. It's just as
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable for high performing individuals to have subpar performance, subpar
Mm-hmm.
dedication, and subpar I don't know, like results in service, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You go, anybody
Yeah.
who's been to the Fayetteville Airport, North Carolina, you're going to get great service there. It's a small airport. Raleigh Airport, same thing. You go to Atlanta, you can expect a subpar performance,
Mm-hmm.
and people are going to treat you a whole lot different than if you were in a smaller town where people actually care about their reputation. So if you give a
Mm-hmm.
shit about your reputation, you're going to work hard to maintain it. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to work hard to grow it and build it. And if you don't, then you're probably going to be around other people who are low performers. I don't think millionaires hang out with broke people.
Hmm.
And I don't think broke people have a whole lot of millionaire friends. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you're elevating
Hmm.
each other constantly, and that's just kind of how the game goes. Yeah.
You know, it's. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, good.
It's like communication in a sense. I've said, before, and it's not me thinking anything of myself. When Louis passed away, uh, that left a lot less interesting, challenging conversations about the topic of strength training for me. And it's almost like, you're born in a country, you haven't heard your native language in 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden someone speaks it, you'd be so excited to hear that, right? And it's farther and fewer between for me now because of that. And it sucks, like it does. Like I miss the conversations with Lou, and just that, you get knowledge transfer from him, but also bounce ideas back and forth, and it's an awesome experience. And I've had a lot of, you're right, I've had a lot of amazing clients. Like I really have had some really unique, amazing individuals that I have a lot of respect for and have great appreciation, and I've learned a lot from it. So when I say become a student of sport, that also means the more you put into your clients, the more you get out, and then you start to change the type of client you have. And when you get higher, more successful clients in your gym, you, you know you make the people you have successful, and they start to have more success in other areas of life, and then you have people at higher levels of success come into your gym, and you learn from them. That'll help your business, that helps you grow, that helps your client base grow, and then you start getting amazing people come through your doors, and it just makes your job so interesting. It makes it fun, and like I said, it allows you to level up. I do believe, they say like you're some of the people you surround yourself with. You are influenced by that. Don't get me wrong. If you don't have many options right now, you can be hard nosed and you can make what you need happen. But eventually, you need to get around other people who are highly successful in different areas, because we don't know everything. There are people from all different walks of life that can teach us. They can all teach us something. And I've had some awesome clients who've done some really cool stuff. And like I said, I've learned a lot from them, and I have a lot to learn from them still.
Oh, yeah. And that's it's one of those things. I had a client recently. He's kind of down on himself, or a former client rather. He's like, dude, ever since I left, like people don't want to train like that intensity. They don't want to train this way. I can't find a training partner that's worth a shit. And I just look, I told him, I was like, look, you weren't worth a shit when you came here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we built you into a good training partner. You got lots of knowledge now. Go build another
Mm-hmm.
training partner and give that knowledge. This isn't a one-way street. This is a two-way road, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Shane said it several times. The further away you get from the source of knowledge, obviously, the more diluted that product comes, right? If you want to learn
Mm-hmm.
jujitsu, you go do it from the Gracies. If you learn it
Mm-hmm.
from another student of the Gracies, you're getting a fraction of that. And the further it goes down, but guess what? You can still be a really fucking good training partner.
Mm-hmm.
You can still pour into people. You can
Mm-hmm.
learn the things. So, at the end of the day, there would be two big asks for people who are following this programming. One,
Mm-hmm.
either you continue to, either you take this time that you're being given, the 8 hours a week, and you get on the phone and you do the boring stuff and you call people and you grow your gym with that
Mm-hmm.
free time, or you take that free time and you become the best trainer you can be, and then you don't need as many clients
Mm-hmm.
to get your bills paid and to have a very successful gym, because you can now charge more because your value proposition is there. If you're
Mm-hmm.
just starting this thing, it's most likely um, that you're not going to be that great. I wasn't that great when I
Mm-hmm.
started working with you. I thought I was good, and I found out I wasn't. But that's the fallacy in all this, right? You only know
Mm-hmm.
what you know, and I didn't know a lot, and I thought I knew conjugate, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I learned it from you, and I learned it better, and I'm continuing to grow, and it's continuing to evolve. You're coming up with new
Mm-hmm.
shit all the time. And like that one thing that Leanne had me do with the bamboo bar overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So bamboo bar overhead, hanging kettlebells, and she has me barefoot on a hex dumbbell, and I'm gripping with my toe doing a split lunge. Fucked me up. You know what I mean? It was like I was feeling things that
Hard,
were
right?
firing, and I was like, "Where the fuck did you come up with this?" And she just pointed to you, and I was like, "Yep, makes sense." Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much out there, and that's obviously a movement I've never done before, but the variety and the adaptation I got off of that was definitely worth working it in. Now, is that
Mm-hmm.
something I would have somebody do like every Thursday? Absolutely not, because I think the value over time for some of those things would go away. But the shock to the system and the concentration, and I was feeling things activating that I haven't felt in a long time, and I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is legit, and that's another tool in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I want to
Yeah.
work with somebody on something very specific, I can do that. No.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Um, we'll take time out, like as people doing this programming, we take care of that for you. So here's what you really honestly need to work on. One, obviously getting people in front of you, right, in front of your coaches. Two, work on your eye on deciphering what's good technique and what's not, and what the breakdown is. Are they breaking down because they're not strong enough to maintain position? Or are they breaking down because they're not mobile enough to achieve the position that you want them to? Okay, and then atmosphere. So you work on those things. Don't worry about the programming. Work on those three things. Build those up, and when you get the atmosphere where you need it to be, and that knowledge base, that eye, it's huge, right? Like I mean, in all honesty, if you're following program, you can produce games champions from that. That's not an issue
It has
whatsoever.
been done.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So and that's all you would need at that point. So you think about, if you add programming, you'd have to try to become an expert at programming. Well, how many books you need to read, and how much life experience as a coach you need. You guys have to understand that. I have been studying stuff since I mean, really studying since I was in junior high. Okay, about strength training, strength conditioning, weightlifting, bodybuilding, all that stuff. And before I went to Westside, I would have considered myself a very high level coach. Now, once I got to Westside, oh man, in the first 2 years, I learned 5 times as much as I knew. And then I kept taking off after that. It's like the more you learn, you should. I tell coaches this all the time. If you're not learning at a faster rate of speed every year, you're wasting your time somewhere. There's something you're not
And
doing
I don't
correct.
know a way that people can learn at a faster rate than what we're currently giving them,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not stopping learning.
Mm-hmm.
They're just 20 years behind, 20, 30 years behind the game,
Yeah.
at least.
Well, yeah.
And like we are catching you guys up at an exponential rate. But
Mm-hmm.
understand, it's going to take a couple years for you to get really, really good. Um, following this thing, going to the course, going back on to the online course and reviewing the lectures and figuring out what we were saying. The more you do it, the more those things start to make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the first time, like you can talk about dynamic effort and training at certain speeds, and you can talk about circa maxes and the benefit, but until you feel what that speed feels like, until you wake up the next day after a max effort lift and your joints don't hurt, for bigger stronger people, because you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
circa max, and you realize like you feel great every day going into the gym and you're not beat up. That's the hard part I have with people coming here, because we're in a military town again. They're following Mayhem and they're following all these different programs. They're used to being fucked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're used to being sore because of all this volume. Our volume comes from our special exercises. Our
Mm-hmm.
volume is restorative. In the moment, like when you're going and you're doing, finishers and your high rep finishers and you're doing these accessories, it feels like you can't do another fucking rep. You know what I mean? But then the next day, you're like, hey, I don't feel like shit. My CNS isn't wrecked. I can train today. I can think. When you've overdone it, and everybody's overdone it, when you're so beat up you can't get off the toilet the next day,
Mm-hmm.
or your joints start to hurt and you need to take a deload. You need to deload your training. Um, you need to take time away from the gym. You fucked up. Like something, you're doing too much of something, and our too much comes
Mm-hmm.
from our special exercises, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all restorative. The finishers, the high rep finishers, it's good for your ligaments and your tendons, and that's another thing. And you can talk a little bit about that. But just how fast people are getting strong on this program, if they're not doing those things, they could be in for a world of hurt later on, because they're,
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit and I'll catch
Yeah,
up to
yeah.
this. One thing people have to realize is what I want to do when I met Lou is learn what he had learned over the last 50 years and try to learn that in a 10 to 15 year time period, then evolve it, right? I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. It was already there, man. All I needed to do is learn it, perfectly, and then I can evolve it, right? Like Louis always used to say, reduplicate before you innovate. At least people want to be innovative, but if you've never produced high level, how do you know if your innovation's actually working or not? And when you can reduplicate the highest level and you can get athletes to be at the highest level, and then you start innovating, you have a lot of reasons why you're doing what you're doing, and you'll be able to decipher, and you'll have principles of things to keep out so people don't get hurt, and so that the results keep coming, right? So, that's one component of it. So, like, you guys have to realize, like, there's a lot of years of coaching involved in this programming. That leads to success. And now when people come in, like say like in a military town, and they're used to like, if they're beat up, it's okay because it just shows I push harder than everybody else. You want to know what hardcore is? Hardcore, think in the military. If a team goes out and every time they go on a mission, a couple of their guys get shot.
Yeah.
Right? They get shot every time you go on a mission, right? And then you have another team.
Purple Hearts, the enemy badge,
Yeah, right. And then you have a team that has been going for twice as long, and they've never had one person get killed or shot. It's like, that's the dangerous team. Like, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
They have to do so much now. There is so much involved for them to walk away from it. And that's kind of what this is, right? At Westside Barbell, they weren't looking for one world record. At my gym, I wasn't looking for one world record. I wanted to reduplicate world record after world record. I want an athlete to break 20 to 40 world records. I don't want one out of an athlete, okay? One to me can almost be like a fluke. I don't care about that. I want multiple. I want reduplication, at a high level.
Well, because that shows that the system works, and that's one of those things. I think tiptoed around this one too long. Look, if you're dick riding your favorite athlete's program because it produced your favorite athlete, and your favorite athlete created an environment, right? A training environment where they're bringing in other high level athletes and they're getting results. That wasn't because of the fucking programming. That was because this individual was so dialed in on what they needed, and everybody just kind of jumped on board. But nobody that I know of, and I could be wildly wrong here, started as a low level to a mid level athlete and then became something great, like truly world class, by dick riding their favorite athlete's program.
No.
And that's the thing that we've been able to do time and time again. You got to give credit where credit's due in the CrossFit space. Rich Froning, Matt Frazier, Tia, they were all very dialed in to what they did, and they had great success. Unfortunately, when they have people go to their camps and they get on their program and they try to reduplicate what they're doing, they fucking break people, or they get worse, or they stagnate. That's not something that happens here, and it's not their fault. They're very dialed in on their training. It's low-level coaches around them that don't understand how to manipulate those things so that it is good for everyone, right? And so if you're a coach, right, you're a coach out there, this is going to help you be a better coach. It's going to help you get better results across the board. It's going to keep your members healthier longer. I like the thing you said about the Bulgarian system, where they would just break lifters left and right because they had another lifter right behind that ready to take that spot who was ready to feed their family. If you're a gym owner or you're a trainer, you don't have a never-ending supply of clients. You have bills to pay. You want to keep those clients happy. You want to keep them healthy. You want to keep them coming back for more. If they're so beat up they can't get off the toilet the next day, if they're so fucked up that if half your gym has shoulder injuries, you might want to evaluate your programming. If half your, we were talking about this with Leanne when she went to college to play volleyball. She was a very high level Olympian caliber athlete who goes to college, and she ends up getting a hip fracture. Was it hip fracture?
She tore a labrum in her hip.
Hip labrum. But it wasn't just her. It was half the fucking team.
6 out of 12. Yeah.
So how do you get half of the girls, and the other ones probably had hairlines as well? That's bad coaching. You're taking high level athletes. They're the best in the world. They're Division I athletes. It doesn't get any better at that level, and they are breaking them. Yep. And that's what happens at these other camps too. Is they're fucking pounding these guys with volume in the wrong areas because it's what worked for one person. Doesn't mean it works for every person.
You know what I can tell you too is here's also a big difference too. I'll give you an example. Like uh, Sam Briggs would come out to my and train at my gym for years, and I will say that I've never seen someone so diligent on the recovery. It's like she would come in, she would do mobility work, she would stretch, she would warm up very very well. She would get a workout in, then she would do maybe like some cool down, a little bit of mobility work. She would eat. Then she would relax until it was time to get ready for her next workout. Then she would, warm up really well, get her workout in, and then she would do mobility work afterwards. If she was in the gym all day long. I mean, she might leave here and there for a short time period, but you're talking
Wow.
about she'd
Yeah.
come here for like 8 hours, and she had two workout time periods that she would get in, or maybe three. Maybe there was a small gymnastics like technique work or something in there. She was spending as much time on her mobility work and her recovery work as she was her actually training.
That 80/20 shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And she was. So, it's one of those things too, a lot of people want to follow a program of this like top athlete. Are you doing the amount of recovery they're doing? And are you getting worked on by people at the same level of the people they're getting worked on? Because a lot
That's
of
a
times
correct stat, right?
yep.
High performers are attracted to high performers. A
Mm-hmm.
high level athlete isn't using a brand new PT or chiropractor fresh out of
Mm-hmm.
school. They're using high level chiropractors and PTs. And those high level
Yeah.
chiropractors and PTs are gravitating toward these individuals because they're high
Mm-hmm.
level individuals. There's actually a sports surgeon that Tina recently linked up with for a surgery
Mm-hmm.
that she may or may not be having. He only treats high level athletes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I cannot go.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot go
Yeah.
see this guy, but because she
Mm-hmm.
does thruster races
Mm-hmm.
faster than me, she gets to go and
Mm-hmm.
see this guy and have this consult. And he works on like NBA players, he works on
Mm-hmm.
NFL players and high level athletes. And there's an application process to seeing someone like that. So if you want the best in the world, you got to be the best in the world, or you have to have
Yeah.
output that is similar to those that make them interested in working with you.
And I get it. It's one of those things where I opened my gym to 24/7 access, right? People can do whatever they want. They don't have to follow my programming. They can follow my programming. I can personal train them. The only thing I don't like about it, and the one thing I was concerned about, is eventually I want to cage off an area, and you have to be invite only to get into that area. You have to earn your way in, and once you earn your way in, you'll have one meet to prove yourself. And I'm doing that for a simple reason. A lot of people like to come here and then they'll go to a powerlifting meet. I haven't coached them on one thing. They don't follow my programming, and then they say they lift here, and that
Yep.
degrades your name.
Right.
And it also can degrade the gym. It can make it so people don't want to show up who are high performers because, like, well, if
This
that's what they're
motherfucker's not
producing
hitting
now,
range of
right?
motion, so what are they teaching over there, you know?
Yeah. And so, a surgeon like that, what's nice is someone like his wife is going to do exactly what he tells her to do for recovery. She eats very well. She isn't gonna lack in anything in training that she needs to do. She has a intelligent training system. She has her food dialed in, and whatever she's told to do for rehab or recovery or or therapy, oh, she will do to a T. So he gets to see how good of a surgeon he actually is. She gets to show the world what kind of surgeon he is, and he knows that he has somebody who's going to make him look good, and he deserves it because he put the work in to build the name that he has, and he's got the results. If he has someone who doesn't do any of the therapy, doesn't listen, the surgery might not take. People that they hear the name of and people who don't do what they're supposed to do never take credit for their faults, right? People who don't do what they're supposed to do will blame the other person. That is just guaranteed what's going to happen. So they're going to say, oh, well, this surgeon's supposed to be the best, but he messed up my surgery.
Right.
You can only say that if you've done everything that was prescribed for you, okay? And that you're intelligent. And even that means if you start to feel uncomfortable in something, even if you're doing what they're telling you to do, that means you also back off and reassess
Oh
and make a
shit, you took
decision.
the words right out of my mouth. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like that's been so just like you, we have very few people that get injured at our gym.
Mm-hmm.
Like over the years, there's been freak accidents like somebody comes off
Mm-hmm.
the rig from doing pull-ups and breaks their ankle,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very few and far in between. And the funny thing about when people get on this programming and they're doing it and they're like mid-level to high-level athletes, at first, because it's a lot of variety that they haven't been exposed to, it continues to be variety. But that initial kick in the gut of I've been doing this thing for like a really long time and I haven't done any of
Mm-hmm.
this fucks people up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
psychologically and physically, right? Because they don't know how to dose it, they don't know any of that stuff. They truly haven't been moving at that kind of intensity.
Mm-hmm.
In a long time, and they start to doubt things and question things. But then guess what happens, right? These individuals, their body adapts,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we continue to change the exercises. But their mindset shifts, and then all of a sudden, what was impossible is now normal everyday life, and they think they have to add more. Right? That would be the same thing as the surgeon saying, "Hey, you got to do physical therapy at this time, from this time to this time, and then we can reevaluate afterwards and see what's going on." And then you go to your physical therapist, they give you the protocol, and you're like, "It's not enough. I'm going to double that, right? Because I don't feel like I'm out of breath here, or I don't feel like I'm working hard enough
Mm-hmm.
here. I saw my competitor do this, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try to beat him." It's like you got to be able to resist the urge to do too much shit.
Mm-hmm.
To Jeff's credit, Jeff Adler, I think he's one of the smartest in the game right now in understanding his body and backing off
Mm-hmm.
on volume when things are getting to be too
Mm-hmm.
much. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
People, I think, would be surprised to know how much he's actually doing versus
Mm-hmm.
what they think he's doing. Because the volume isn't like what most competitors in the space are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and he's healthy and he's
Yeah.
getting results.
And I've had competitors that I've worked with, and I work with Jeff on his strength stuff, but I've had competitors I work with that do a lot more volume than he does. But don't compare yourself to other people. Like you have to find your way to win. That's what I always tell people. It's funny because people try to emulate other people. It's like, no, no, get good at being you. Find your way to win. You don't have to win like someone else. Actually, you can only be a fraction or percentage of them, but you can be 100% you. And people need to listen to that.
So
That's where you see.
when
Oh,
do
good.
you increase this? I love this bit on this. When do you know when it's time to increase volume?
Right. So yeah, Justin brings up a good point. For years, I've been asking this at seminars, and for years, I usually get something along the lines of, you know, uh, when my numbers start going good and I start getting consistent improvement, that's why I know it's time to increase your volume. And I'm like, that sounds like your volume's optimized to me, because didn't you just start making progress? And I'm making
Right.
progress. Trust me, I'm not changing anything at that point. I'm going to change when things aren't, when things start wanting to slow down, that's when I'm going to look at changing stuff, not when they're riding high.
You don't rebuild a brand new engine, like, oh, that
Yeah,
thing, well, that thing have some problems first.
you're right. So the nice thing is, what we do is based off of your maxes and the percentage of your maxes. Your volume is controlled by a couple things, right? Time controls volume. The speed at which you move a bar, how long you have the bar in your hand, that helps control volume. So what we do is we don't guess on anything. We hit a max. We take a percentage of that max for our speed work. Our max day is roughly half the volume of our dynamic day. Our dynamic day is our volume day. So when we take our percentage that are prescribed in the programming and you apply that to your max, that gives you your volume. So what happens is when your max goes up, your volume automatically increases proportionally to your max. So you're always at optimal volume at all times, which I can tell you right now 99.9% of people are not at optimal volume. Unless you're doing a system like this, you're almost never at optimal volume. So the great thing is people will go, okay, well, conjugate, is that for geared lifters or can raw lifters use it? Well, okay, look, it was invented by Olympic lifters. You have Olympic lifting world champions out of Russia, China who use it. You have CrossFit Games competitors who are raw who use it. I've had raw world record holders in powerlifting, geared world record holders in powerlifting. It works for everybody. Whether you're 15 years old, you're 70 years old, you're taking performance enhancing drugs, you're not taking performance enhancing drugs, it's all based on your output, your actual output, not where you want to be, not where you hope to be. Not what your favorite person's doing. It is what are you capable of.
Imagine
Let's take a percentage of
getting your
that.
ass kicked by a
Hmm.
normal person, training at a CrossFit gym using the conjugate system.
Hmm.
How demoralizing that must be, right?
Hmm.
And then you just
And it
got to
happens.
automatically assume that every one of our athletes are on drugs because there's no way
Hmm.
that anybody could beat you without. And that's the greatest accusation that we get. And was
Hmm.
there, yeah, over the years, was there lifters and athletes that use drugs? Yes, sure.
You know,
You could take the same drugs and work next to them side by side and do your programming and do this programming, and the results wouldn't even be close. They already did this with the enhanced games, right? They
mm-hmm.
took a high level swimmer
Hmm.
who was at the top of his game or close to being at the top of his game, and they doped the shit out of this guy,
Hmm.
and he still couldn't break any records.
He went backwards.
He went
His
backwards.
times were slower.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's the same thing with the cyclist, and I think it was Icarus,
Hmm.
where he tried to do the Lance Armstrong doping protocol, and he
Hmm.
trained like Lance Armstrong, and he did all these things, and then he found out, like, fuck, dude, I'm not half the athlete I was, and I worked my ass
Yeah.
off for this. Um, so
He
it's
wasn't even going to
completely
be a. Yeah, he wasn't even going to be a mid-level pro.
the drugs thing is just hilarious to me. Like,
Well, here's the thing: you can have excuses, you can have results. You can't have both. People love to have excuses for things, you know. Because if you have excuses, you don't have to look at yourself. You don't have to look at your training, and you don't have to look at your recovery. Are you sleeping the way you should? Are you mitigating stress? And it can even be, hey man, I'm eating my 5 meals a day. My macro profile is on point. I'm getting the sleep I should get. And it's like, what's your personal life look like? Do you date the wrong people? Do you have a job that stresses you all the time and you don't know how to handle that stress? Maybe you need to learn how to handle that stress better. Maybe you need a different job. Maybe you're dating the wrong person. But what I'm saying is your body doesn't perceive mental or physical stress any different. So until you can optimize your stress situation, your sleep situation, and your food, right? People automatically want to say drugs. What I'll tell you is it's funny because unfortunately when you have a gym, right? Every gym on the planet has people that are on and people that are off. Gym can't control that. I can't control who comes to my door. I don't know what they do at their home. What I will tell you though is there's usually some a lot of your high performers are not on stuff. There's a couple really high performers in the gym that are on, and then the majority of people who are on in the gym are usually low level performers. That's what I've noticed.
yeah,
They're the ones who like to talk about it all the time. They're not really going anywhere with what they're doing. They got a little bit moderate boost when they started, and that boost hasn't changed in the last 5 years. Well, let me tell you, the top pro athletes in the world who whether they use or they don't use, they're always evolving. Their numbers get better every time they show up to competition. Okay, whether they're taking something or not taking something. So I'm sorry, but when you're taking stuff and your numbers haven't really improved in 2 or 3 years, it's on you. And it doesn't mean that the other person who's beating you is doing more than you're doing. They're probably doing more in recovery, in sleep, in knowledge, and surrounding themselves with better people and following better programming. That's what they're doing, you know? So a lot of people, like I said, they'll get that first initial bump for the first, 3 to 6 months that they start something, and then after that, they're not really getting anything out of that.
yeah, and I just want to kind of circle back just a little bit to
Mm.
what you were talking about with volume.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're saying is when someone's max goes up, their volume goes up.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that they're doing more work necessarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it does mean is like, hey, if you were doing like if we're looking at a common thing that we do, a
Mm-hmm.
3 week wave. We start
Mm-hmm.
off with 50%. Week
Mm-hmm.
two, we'll go 55%. Week three, we might go 60% plus the accommodating resistance that we want.
Mm-hmm.
We'll run that in a 3 week wave so that they don't fall to the law of accommodation. Then we can move on. If your lifter has a 200-pound bench, we'll say 50% of that's going to be 100 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you take that and you do typically the way that we run it for our CrossFit athletes, be like a 9x3. That's an accumulation of 2,700 pounds. You go up the next week and it's 55%. 55% equals about 110 pounds. So your accumulation, your volume there is going to be 2,970 pounds. And then you can do it up to 60%. But then you go back a couple weeks later, you retest that max. Now it's 210 pounds. All those numbers remain the same 50, 55, 60. but 50, 55, 60 of 210 pounds is different than 200 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what Shane's talking about. And it's all of the things because we don't just
Mm-hmm.
want to PR main lifts. We want to PR all the accessories. If you're doing a 4x8 dumbbell bench at with 50-pound dumbbells, and then the next week you do that because we're running it in 3 week waves, and then you're doing it with 70-pound dumbbells, but it's still a 4x8. Guess what you just increased?
Mm-hmm.
Volume. I think the problem in the CrossFit space is people look at volume solely as the repetitions or the amount
Mm-hmm.
of workouts that they're doing, and they don't look at the accumulation of volume. So come Thursday in the week, they're feeling good, their bodies aren't beat up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, huh, I just need to do more volume. You don't even know what that
Mm-hmm.
word means.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing extra things. And you know, in CrossFit, there's a lot of kipping movements. We take our joints through large ranges of motions very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If there's other shit going on and your shoulders, you're not able to maintain active shoulders because your muscles are actually fatigued and you don't know it because you put too much
Mm-hmm.
volume in it. Now you're dangling around from your shoulders, your elbows are getting jerked on with every rep, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, my shoulder hurts." Yeah, no shit. No shit, your shoulder hurts, right? Like it's not, this isn't a mathematical equation. This isn't rocket surgery. You did shit that you probably shouldn't have been doing because you didn't look at the total amount of volume. You just lifted 4,000 tons this month, or this week,
Mm-hmm.
rather. You know what I mean? Like if you accumulate all that volume, what do you think your body's thinking about all those things? Like, is it optimized? It's optimized if it's trending in the right direction. If you're going backwards, then it's probably too much volume. And
Mm-hmm.
just because it says 50, 55, 60%, if you're not moving it at the correct speeds, you're more likely to put yourself in a position, both mechanically and physiologically, that is going to lead to an
Mm-hmm.
alternative adaptation, which isn't progress, but it's injury or
Mm-hmm.
stagnation, right? And that's the thing that happens because and I like what you do when you have a lifter, a CrossFit athlete. They're going for a max lift. You'll just pull them off to the side and talk to them about any random shit. And you can see them just itching. They're like, oh, I gotta fucking get back out there. And you're just talking to them, checking your watch. You're like, all right, it's been 5 minutes. Hey, why don't you go over there and try another one? I just put a little bit of weight on. And then they go do it and they do it better than the other one. They're like, fuck yeah, I'm ready to go. I can do more weight. And then you start talking to them about random nonsense. Whatever it is, right? Is sometimes it's about the actual training. Sometimes it's to get their mind off of it and distract them.
Mm-hmm.
But they think because they're not breathing hard, because they're not fatigued,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not doing the sets and reps and the volume that other people are doing, that the results that they're missing out on results and
Mm-hmm.
missing out on opportunities. The reality is like, hey, if you can get results, like really good fucking results, and do less than everybody else, why the fuck wouldn't you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We talk about gym owners having
Mm-hmm.
time to go back. What about the athletes?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of fucking life is it if you're living 8 hours in a gym, 365, and you're constantly worried and stressed out about the next person? You're neglecting your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having meaningful connections. Eventually, even if you are a high performer, you can only
Mm-hmm.
ignore people so long before they're like, you know what, fuck this guy,
Mm-hmm.
fuck this girl. Like this is too much. And I know you've experienced that,
Mm-hmm.
at varying degrees as well. When people start to get results, their heads get
Mm-hmm.
bigger
Yep.
and they think they're more than what they are. And then later on, they find out maybe
Mm-hmm.
they weren't as great without the coach as they thought they were.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing any
You
fingers
know.
or anything, but there are individuals who have done great things in the space,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they leave that coach, they just don't continue to do those great things.
Mm-hmm.
Did they lose their genetic ability overnight? No,
Yep.
they lost
Mm-hmm.
access to knowledge and someone who wasn't going to allow them to do some really dumb shit that was going to put them
Mm-hmm.
in a bad position.
Mm-hmm.
No one gets out of being high level at anything
Mm-hmm.
completely injury free.
Yep.
If you want to be the best, and you're taking your body to places that people have never been, yeah, there's going to be some wear and tear. Our job is to
Mm-hmm.
mitigate that, not push
Mm-hmm.
you to that limit faster.
Yeah.
If you have to get
And
a knee replacement, if you have to get your hip replaced because you've been in
hmm
this game for so long, my job is to improve your quality of life for as long as
hmm
possible. And you say this all the time too. Quality of life is different for everybody. For the
hmm
80-year-old athlete that's in the gym, they just want to know if they can fall down, they can get back up. Check, got it.
hmm
For a top level athlete, they want to stay a top level athlete in the game for as
hmm
long as possible.
hmm
Um, and your job as a trainer is no different between the two because they came to you for help. So you have to help them in a way that is not going to blunt progress or put them in a situation that they can't recover from.
Yeah. And before I have to go, the last thing I would say for me is he's 100% right on that. Louis had a saying at Westside that the brightest stars burn out the fastest. And what he meant by that is the people who made progress the fastest had genetic gifts, the programming hit perfectly for what their weaknesses were. They make progress so quick that all of a sudden it must be them. They're the greatest. And the problem is they stop listening. They didn't learn the system yet by that time. They end up not liking what they hear, and they start wanting to not do the exercises that are hard for them because they're at the top. And it's like, well, I think I need this. And I don't know where some of those ideas come from, but they pop up in their head. And you have Lou say, "Hey, man, you're either going to do what I tell you to do, or there's the door." And people are
Well,
like,
what
well,
he
I
didn't
just
do
broke
as a
this
coach is he
record.
didn't dick ride anybody, right?
No,
He wasn't dick riding an athlete. He could care less. If you
no.
were the top athlete in your sport and you wanted to come learn,
Mm-hmm.
great. If you
Cool.
are the top athlete in your sport and you don't want to learn, get the fuck out.
Yeah,
Um,
he doesn't care if you were number one. He would kick you out of that gym if you weren't going to do what he wanted you to do.
I think it's the same for both of
And
us, though. Like, hey, I don't
yep,
care if
hmm
you're the top athlete in the world or you are a average 50-year-old
hmm
coming to the facility. You want to learn? I'll pour into you. You don't want
well,
to
it's
learn? Get the fuck
systems that
out.
build. This is what people think it's 100% them. Don't get me wrong. You want the right mind and body in front of you, sure. But I'll tell you, like the genetically gifted that I've ever had are not the ones that do the best performance. The best performance are people who are gifted enough but have the right head on their shoulders, right? It's not the ultra gifted. They're
No, they
I'd get excited for them when they used to come in the gym. Then I started to get disappointed when I found them because I'm like, great, here's another disappointment. I wanted people who had enough of a build but had a head on their shoulders, man. Because that's the ones who are going to listen, who are going to execute. That's what you're going to get. And Lou would just tell people, he's like, hey, look, man, they say, well, I'm so and so. He's like, yeah, well, if you leave, I'll just build the person to beat you. So because he had the system. And look, and, for people who don't understand what I mean by the system, right? If you want to learn how to kickbox, you're either going to Thailand or going to Holland. The Dutch and the Thais. You need to go to both. There's two different techniques, and you need to understand both. But that's where you're going, right? That's where the best, coaches. That's where the best, fighters are coming out of in those respective sports. If you want to learn jiu-jitsu, you're probably going to have a Brazilian coach, right? Hopefully it's Hickson Gracie or somebody at that, that kind of lineage or close to that lineage because no one really has that kind of lineage besides him. If you want to be a good wrestler, there's only a couple colleges in the United States that you want to go to. If you want to be the best in basketball, there's only a couple colleges that you want to go to. If you want to be the best in football, like there is only, yeah, right? There's only so many places. Yeah, that was pretty awesome, actually, team to turn around like that. But that's the thing, right? Like, systems are what build, right? And you plug in the right people to the right system, and then that's when you have magic, right? But people tend to think it's just, well, I'm going to do what I want to do now. And it's like, dude, you were in a successful system, man. Pull yourself out, and what system have you developed?
love it, brother.
So,
I'll do it again next week.
all right, man. You take it easy.
Yeah. Good luck to you on getting
Thanks.
in and out of your driveway over the next couple days. And
We'll figure it out.
yeah, always do. Later.
Yeah, right. Have a good one.